Well, welcome to One Heart, One Mind. And we're going to kick things off here with Toni. Toni, are you ready to kick us off with an opening song?
Okay. There's a feeling of expansion in my chest. There's a knowing that this day will be my best. There's a quiet voice that speaks above the rest. It's spirit rising. There's a rumble in the earth beneath my feet. There's a knowing that I'm perfect and complete. There's a light in me that darkness can't defeat. It's spirit rising. Untie the ties that bind you. Let spirit just unwind you. Let the light remind you of who you are. Surrender to the feeling that spirit is revealing. Yes, freedom has no ceiling. Yes, you'll go far. You'll go far. There's a tingle in the space around my heart. There's connection to this world that I'm a part. There's a joy that my new life's about to start. It's spirit rising. A joy that my new life's about to start. It's spirit rising. Spirit rising in me, lifting me up, setting me free. Yes, spirit rising in me, lifting me up, setting me free. It's spirit rising in me, lifting me up, setting me free. Yes, spirit, spirit rising in me, lifting me up, setting me free. It's spirit rising in me, lifting me up, setting me free.
Lifting me up, setting me free. Thanks, Toni. What a wonderful way to kick us off this morning. I would like to invite our practitioner of the day, Jean Pirkl, to kick us off now with Toni kicked us off, but to continue this momentum with an opening prayer. Welcome, Jean.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So if we could let's join together in consciousness. Because what I know is that there's only one eternal force, one mind that moves through all creation as powerful, loving, joyful energy. It is the wind that whistles through the trees. It is the stream that caresses rocks as it flows. It is all the senses that we can fathom, and so much more. It is with this creative force that we have our beings, and we live a life of oneness, of wholeness. Because this oneness is everywhere present, I am one with that. You are one with that. We are one with that. We are the infinite web of connection with all. And I know that our bodies are an aspect of that expression of the eternal one. that eternal mind knowing itself as us. And together we say, and so it is.
So it is.
Mm. Michelle has heard this before, but when I saw that we were going to be talking about joy and grief combined, it was like, wow, that's kind of a gnarly sandwich. Grief, ooh. I had a phenomenal father, and he was one of those guys that if it was harvest time, he always had this garden that would overproduce stuff. So if you were a neighbor, you might want to take vacation at that time, because he'd be passing around any of the extra things like tomatoes or cucumbers. It'd be like you were bound to get a knock on the door from him. But he and I were incredibly close. So our Saturday ritual was to wash vehicles together. And he passed several years ago. And when he did, my mom gave me his truck. And that would be like the place that I would go to remember him, because it smelled like him. And that was kind of our thing that we would do together. And it was very generous of my mom to do that. But in any case, that truck represented him, to some respect. But I was still carrying around this burden of feeling a deep sadness from him not being physically around. And I ended up selling that truck, and I was up in Portland at the time. I sold the truck and knew I was going to be heading down to San Diego. And I landed in Temecula, and I lived there for like 5 years, and then ultimately landed in Escondido. And I still was, oddly, I was still grieving my dad, and not really. There was some numbness there that I was experiencing. But I was driving around Escondido, and something caught the corner of my eye, and it looked like my dad's truck. So I whipped a U-turn. And so this is 7 years later, after I'd sold the vehicle in Portland, Oregon. And sure enough, it was my dad's truck. And what I made that mean was that he was still here, even though he wasn't physically here. But what it did for me was it allowed me to recognize that, because it made me really happy. So there was some joy there, but at the same time, there was that kind of that grief, or that edge of, there's been a change. It's not the same as it was. He's not around anymore. But then it was just, to me, it was an interesting where that sandwich came together, where there was still a little bit of grief, but there was all the joyfulness of having something so unusual happen with somebody that I cared so deeply about. But so that's what I have for you this morning. So thanks for letting me ramble, Michelle. And if we could join in today's or June's affirmation. Thank you for this beautiful, spectacular, fantastic, brand new day. I'm grateful to be alive, and I'm grateful for my inner joy and inner peace. I'm grateful for the love and light of life expressing everywhere. And so it is.
Wow, I do remember you telling me that story, and I felt the same way this time around, Jean, that your father was just saying, I'm still here, I'm still with you. What an amazing thing. Oh, just takes my breath away. Whew. So, thank you for that. That was just something. I don't even know what to say. But I would like to invite Toni to go ahead and kick us off right before this talk, which it is about that grief and joy sandwich that Jean was talking about. So go ahead, Toni. Oh, Toni, your music was a little low. We could hear your voice great, but you just.
I actually had trouble hearing it. Sorry.
Oh,
I come to you when fear and doubt are calling. I run to you when I feel my spirit falling. I come to you when I feel my life is stalling. I come to you. I come to you when I need answered questions. I run to you for quiet moments of reflection. I come to you 'cause there's freedom in confession. I come to you. One day I really heard the words, seek and ye shall find. I realized to change my life, I have to change my mind. And so I find a quiet place to bring my cares to you. And in that silent space, I hear your wisdom coming through. I come to you when life is too demanding. I run to you for peace and understanding. I come to you when my limits need expanding. I come to you. Before everything I do, I come to you. I come to you. The voice inside of me, the spirit inside of me, I come to you. The love inside of me, the light inside of me, I come to you. 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 Sorry, I hit it too soon.
Ooh, that was beautiful, Toni. Thank you for that. That really encompasses today's message to go to God first. There's the joy. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful. Oh, wow. Good morning again. Good morning, One Heart, One Mind, Center for Spiritual Living. I'm so glad that you're connecting with us this morning. You know, whether you're here in real time on the Zoom call or watching the live stream or the replay, welcome, welcome, welcome. So this week I had the opportunity to discover yet again just how interesting life is. You know, this week's message is entitled Balancing Grief and Joy. This is so, you know, and as Jean reminded us, that's kind of that's a full sandwich. That's a meal. So, and often when I'm preparing a Sunday message, something will happen in my life that kind of brings the topic into clear focus for me. You know, I'll have some situation or event pop up that gives me this up close and personal experience of what the topic is. And that happened in a big way this week. You know, my husband and I had to say goodbye to our sweet dog, Charlotte. She's been sick for a while, and we knew the day was coming, and that day came this past Thursday. So I got a real hands-on experience of this week's message. I got to practice how to balance the love and the joy that our sweet girl Charlotte brought into our lives with the grief that I feel from her passing. I'm gonna get my quote. The wise philosopher and adorable stuffed bear, Winnie the Pooh, put it beautifully when he said, how lucky I am to have had something that makes saying goodbye so hard. Do you love that? How lucky I am to have had something that makes saying goodbye so hard. And that's really it, right? It's the contrast in our experiences that shines light on the blessings of both grief and joy. And it's through the lens of self-care, which is our monthly theme, that we look at this kind of contrast today. How do we tend to ourselves? How do we treat ourselves with compassion and love as we walk through the inevitable experiences of grief and joy as human beings? So I started thinking about this title, Balancing Grief and Joy. And to balance something means to find an equilibrium, a state of rest between the two contrasting experiences. Balance is a moment or a space to breathe. It's really about being present in the moment, experiencing now. It's about allowing ourselves to experience what's right in front of us without writing a story around it, but just being with how we feel. Letting go of expectation, of judgment, of victimhood, letting go of any resistance to what is, so that we can be open to the life that's presenting itself right now, right in this moment, whatever that looks and feels like. I read that once the Dalai Lama was being interviewed, and it was right after his book about happiness, I forget the exact title, had been released. And the interviewer asked him, what was your happiest moment? And he paused for a minute and had that little kind of mischievous look that the Dalai Lama gets on his face. And his response was, I think now. I think now. I love that response because while we talk a lot about being present and being in the now, how now is the power moment, the only moment that we're empowered to change or do anything, really. But rarely do we actually let ourselves be in it, to be present in the now. We talk a lot about the past and we talk about the future, but right now is really the only time we have. Now is a creative moment. It creates the next moment and the next now. And we often get so caught up in thinking that we're on our way to the most important moment of our life that we miss where we are. It's rare that we realize that, and I include myself in this, that right now, that this moment matters. It's honestly the only moment that matters. If we truly want to practice self-care, and last week I was calling it radical self-care because we think of self-care as taking care of all the outside stuff, but this is radical self-care, inside care. To really practice self-care, now is the moment to do it in. How do I feel now? What do I believe about myself now, in this moment? And if we only sit in expectation of our future, no matter how near or far we envision that future, not only do we miss what's happening now, but we kind of set ourselves up for disappointment. I mean, think about it. When has anything actually turned out exactly like you thought it would, or you thought it should, or you wanted it to? Rarely does anything actually turn out exactly like we envision it. We must be open and present to now. So I thought of this analogy. Imagine for a moment that you decide that you're going to travel by car to Miami Beach, Florida. You study the map and you mark the roads and you begin this long journey, and days and hours pass as you watch the highway signs go by you. You're with me, I'm sure. Until finally you see that sign, Miami Beach, next exit. And at last you've arrived, yay. And as you enter the city, you're expecting like sunny skies and warm beaches, and you're shocked to find that it is bitterly cold. And people are bundled up in scarves and overcoats, and there's ice covering everything, and there's no sign of any beach or any ocean anywhere you can see. And you sit there bewildered, you stare at the map and you look out the window and you stare back at the map and you shake your head in disbelief. Obviously, you're not in Miami. So you just have to ask, where am I? Was the map wrong? Did I miss a sign? How did I get here? We make plans. We follow the maps we've created. We do everything right. And still, there are times when we stop and say, how did I get here? You know, there will be times when we look around at our lives and think, nothing looks like what I expected. You know, we map out where we want to go with our relationships and our work and our accomplishments. And instead, we find ourselves in places and circumstances that bear no resemblance at all to what we thought would happen. We find ourselves saying, well, this didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Anybody ever say that? Or maybe, and this is another possibility, we arrive exactly where we thought we would be, only to find it's not where we want to be at all. You know, there's a beach and sunrise, but good Lord, it's humid out here and it's so crowded. And the career we work so hard for is devoid of any meaning. Our relationships are passionless or missing the intimacy we crave, or we find that our possessions and our accomplishments leave us unfulfilled. Just like our trip to Miami, we look at the map of our lives and wonder, how the heck did we get here? How did we get so lost? We were so sure that we were going in the right direction. You know, where's the happiness I was expecting? You know, and both of these things, having it not look like we want, or maybe even having it look like we want, but not having it feel like we want, can be wake-up calls, can be our opportunities to see things new and to hold ourselves in a deeper, more soulful way, to really go within and experience who we are, to let go of our detailed maps of our expectation, either good or bad, and trust that when we're connected with the presence of God, of God's good, when we feel good on the inside, it will express itself as good on the outside. You know, there's a remedy for this malady of feeling lost, and it's called self-care. And today I'm defining self-care as letting go of all of our shoulda, coulda, wouldas, all of our maps and expectations, and just being in the moment. Let go of the expectations of how things should be and be in the powerful now. Self-care has to do with our inner beingness, our conscious union with the divine, our ability to trust life, a willingness to let go of the control that we think we have and stop rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Self-care has everything to do with how we feel. And how we feel has everything to do with living a robust, meaningful, and a joyous life. So what about those moments then? What about those moments when your dog dies? How do we navigate through those moments? Those parts of being human. You know, grief is an unavoidable emotion we all go through at some point in our life. And we don't only experience grief when we lose someone dear to us, a person or an animal. There are many life situations that cause us grief. Loss of a relationship, a job, a divorce, a car accident, an argument with a friend. And to embrace self-care through any of these trying times, it's imperative to understand how we surf through these waters of grief to joy. You know, like all emotions, grief isn't good or bad in and of itself. Grief doesn't make us imperfect. Rather, grief serves our growth. It serves our evolution. It serves our expansion. You know, these life situations give us the opportunity to practice being present now. And I've found myself doing that all week. Okay, I notice she's not here, or it's time to give her meds, or no one's walking around with a stuffed monkey in their mouth. You know, and I have to remind myself, it's okay. It's okay. I'm here. It's okay now. These life situations give us the opportunity to practice being present. When we allow ourselves to experience everything, when we allow ourselves to be present with every emotion, then we get to process it. And then we get to let it move through us, and we don't hang on to it, make it more and more real and become this place where we block energy. No, we let it move through us. We can only do that when we're present with whatever. And I just want to pause here for a moment to remind us that we don't have to go through these challenging experiences alone. We have options. We can come together with one another in spiritual practice. We can connect with our spiritual community, our family. I certainly did. A good friend. We can see a therapist. We can see a practitioner. The bottom line is we don't have to do it alone. And I must admit that sometimes the most challenging part of a challenging experience is to reach out for support. I am not that good at it. And the good news for all of us is that whatever experience we're walking through in our oneness with spirit, we have the ability to think and to feel and to recreate, because we are one with God and one with everybody else, and we can ask for help. We can consciously choose to participate with creative law. And with this realization, we can create joy even when it feels like it's absent at the moment, and we're empowered to create a happier life, even in the midst of grief and uncertainties, even when we realize we are not at the beach. And that power to recreate in any situation, to move into an elevated emotional state, that's our birthright. And the realization that we have this co-creative power, in my opinion, is how we practice self-care. It's an opportunity to say, this is just an experience, and how I respond to it will create my next now experience. This is how we find that balance between grief and joy, by experiencing everything and realizing that we're not alone. We have human support, but we also have the infinite presence of God that will always be there, that is who we are, that is constantly supporting us, that is constantly loving us. Self-care is the realization that we're these divine human beings who are endowed by our Creator with the ability to bring meaning to everything we experience. We're the source of our grief or our joy. Not that I'm suggesting that we aren't going to go through our entire lives without feeling grief. We are, or any other challenging emotions. That's not being human to not experience all these things. It is being human to experience some challenging situations. But what I'm suggesting is that in our awareness of and our conscious union with our divine nature, when we live from the awareness that we're conscious beings having a human experience, conscious infinite beings having a human experience, we begin to understand that we're the ones who assign meaning to the experience in this kind of parade of events, situations, and circumstances that moves in front of us in our human lives. I hope that makes sense. We can kind of put it like this. It's like if I'm holding a flashlight. We're holding a flashlight. And rather than putting all of our attention on the objects that the light of the flashlight is lying on or shining on, what if we pay attention to the light itself? We're the source of the light. The divinity that shines through us is the source of our life, but we're one with it. So the divine light is our light. And when we put all of our attention on the light and sit in the source of the light, we realize that we're empowered to shine the beauty and the peace and the compassion and the abundance and the joy that is within the light onto everything that is in our experience. We're empowered to let the light be what it is and to shine this meaning of divine light on everything that we experience in our humanness. We're the meaning makers. We bring our beliefs and our perceptions into everything we experience in our human lives. take the loss of my sweet little doggie Charlotte. Yes, I'm grieving her. I miss her funny howls and her tail wags and the way she loved to hold stuffed animals in her mouth and all the wonderful things about her. But as Winnie the Pooh said, I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to have her in my life so that I could miss her. I would miss the love. Think of the ways in which she enriched my life. And I do want to mention that in her passing, when I reached out and shared my grief, I received so much wonderful love and support. I felt the love of others just embrace me and hold me and care for me. And that was a beautiful experience. I felt cared for, loved, and part of a community of love. I felt peace and love and joy in the midst of the grief because I loved her. So can you stop for a moment, just pause and think of a time in your life when you had a meaningful experience? Something that really you felt it all the way to your soul. Let's put it that way. A time that you actually even went past even just happiness. Maybe it was a moment of awe, a moment of pure joy. For me, those moments happen, they pop up when I share the depth of my love with a family member or a friend. I remember last time I visited my daughter, we had this connection of this just unconditional love enveloping us both. It was beyond just being happy. It was a moment when I felt a deep connection with her. And there are moments when I feel a deep connection with nature, where the trees and the birds and the wind and I were just one. Or a time when I was with my siblings and we were all laughing so hard we couldn't even speak. Or that time when I was a child, when I looked into the clear desert night sky and I saw the Milky Way and I just melted into it in my oneness. Those moments, those are the moments of heart. Those are the moments when we shine the light of our flashlight onto something and we melt into it. And we let the heart and the life of the divine be a part of our experience in the world. Those are the moments that blend that grief and joy, when that equilibrium, that balance happens, the moment we can breathe in between everything. Those are the moments I remember and bring deep meaning to me. And through spiritual practice, we can cultivate those times without having to have something spark it from the outside, but to have it sparked from the inside. The source of the light is always within us. This is self-care. It's the nature of the light, the nature of love, that we're charged with shining out into our world, into our work and our relationship and our health and the way we prosper and everything else we experience in our human life. This is self-care, to bring the light of God into everything we think and feel and do in our lives. This light is the depth of our heart, the light of our heart. It's our true nature. And when we forget who we are, when we forget to cultivate and nurture the seed of our own divinity that's within us, life will remind us, and often through discomfort and disturbance. Who are you really? It will say. You remember that line? I was always writing this down. Remember that line from Star Wars where the Death Star blew up the planet Alderaan, and Obi-Wan Kenobi says, I feel a disturbance in the force. Doesn't that say it all? When something out there happens and we get uncomfortable or something's not right, we're not in Miami when it's snowing outside. We thought we'd be happy, but we're not. Things in my life don't feel good. There's a disturbance in the force. Then we pull out our flashlight. We sit in who we are. We shine that flashlight out onto the thing so that we can see it in a new way. The light of the divine love is always looking for an outlet of expression. It whispers in our ears, it taps us on the shoulder, and it does that all before it actually hits us behind the knees with a 2x4. When there's a disturbance in the force, we can be sure that love is looking for a way to express through us. And it will get rid of any obstacles in its path, anything. It will call us to look at everything in this moment from the divine light from our flashlight. You know, and it takes a minute to cultivate this kind of ability to shine the light of God into every situation, you know, and it takes our attention, it takes our commitment, and it calls us to feel passionate about doing it, dedicated to doing it. You know, farmers cultivate their fields before they plant. Artists knead their clay before they mold it. We cultivate our hearts and we turn on that flashlight within us so that we can shine it into the dailiness of our lives. You know, and the idea of self-care is to be profoundly connected to our inner light and allow it to be a part of our daily activities, our work and our relationships and our daily chores to live with meaning, to live from that source, to live soulfully and to be connected to others and to our family and friends and to our community. I'm just going to share one last story. I read this story about a woman named Jenna Fornell. And when her 8-year-old son Ollie died in 2019, she turned to gardening to move through her grief, to watch new things come up and sprout and grow, to nurture something new in her grief. And now from that gardening experience, she feeds her entire community. Every Saturday, she sets the table in the front of her house in Alexandria, Virginia, in her yard, and she fills all of the tables that she sets up with produce from her garden. And she also fills them with homemade breads and muffins, and she offers everything to everyone for free. And she says that it keeps Ollie's spirit of loving kindness alive. One of her neighbors said that she called it the beautiful bounty of generosity. And, you know, this is just one example. There are millions of stories we could tell where grief has been turned into something good, a new way to express life and to share and to find joy. You know, many people have transformed their grief into joy through practicing self-care by finding and shining their inner light into the outer world. You know, and it just is, if you've ever attended a funeral and you sprinkled dirt or holy water on a grave, I remember when I did that with my aunts, that experience pulls us deeply into the source of our heart, into our life. That place that I was talking about before, where we've experienced those moments that move us into awe, beyond just happiness, but into joy, you know, and you'll probably remember those moments for years. You know, simple gestures taking place at the surface of life can bring this deep, meaningful feeling into the experience of our life. When we practice shining the light of our heart, the light of our source, into our daily activities, we change the way we experience everything. We change the way we engage with life. We learn to balance our grief and our joy. You know, we give ourselves room to breathe. We trust the power of life that moves through us, that breathes us, that is us, that loves us. And I believe this is the way that we practice true radical self-care. You know, we live the nature of our divine self in and through our human endeavors. And I think that when we do this, we live our divinity out loud, and we're called to do that. That's why we're here. We live our divinity out loud into the world. We share our love, we share our losses, and we share our joys. We share them with each other. So let's pray. So let's take a moment, take a deep breath in, and know together that all life is God's life, that everything that happens in the unseen, in the action that brings it into the scene, is all within the circumference of God. Everything, including us. We are one with this divine presence of life, with this divine beauty, love, compassion, friendship, creativity. We are one with it all. It's all in us. Just turn on that flashlight, shine it out. So I speak my word for and about everybody that's on this call, everybody that is not, for our world right now, for every living, breathing thing on our planet and our planet herself. that there's a shift in consciousness that knows this presence, that knows it unequivocally, that knows that it is really all that matters, that it's all that exists, that it's all that is real and viable and infinite, and it goes out to express itself everywhere. I'm thankful for the ability to know who I am and the ability to know that I am empowered to spread who I am, which is the presence and the light of God, into every heart, into every dark corner, into everything that happens in the physical world. Thank you, God, for this. Thank you, God, for the realization that all is well, no matter what it looks like in front of me at this moment. All is well. All is moving towards the full expression of God. Oh, so relaxing in that, I just know that everything's okay. And I invite you to say with me, and so it is. And so it is. Whew, I got warm all of a sudden. I don't know why. Moving that energy around in me. Oh, so just take a nice deep breath. And I know who's doing the benediction, but this is escaping me at this point. Is it you, Rob? Yeah, Rob. Okay.
Could be wrong, but I'm doing it now.
Right. I'm passing it over to you, kid.
All righty.
I do have slides, so I will put those up.
Okay. This is the part that even if I do remember that I'm doing the benediction, I invariably forget that I'm doing this part too. But just off the top of my head, it really seems that giving and receiving are linked, that there is an undeniable connection between the two. I know Yvonne has noticed that, and I know that Relaine has noticed that, and hopefully everyone's noticed that when we give, it seems as though it opens the door to the flow that comes into us. So since this is our opportunity to do this and support the community, and we have it's a pretty neat little group of people that we got going for us, and it's really a good thing to support, and I feel honored that I get to support it too. So this is our chance to give, and there are the primary way. We got a new address up there, which is in Michelle's backyard, and she is taken on the task of trekking off to the post office box. In case you feel like sending in a check, you'll know that it won't be sitting there for the next month and a half, because Michelle takes care of that, and we thank her for that. And also, we've got a giving affirmation, I believe, because I sure don't know what it is. Or maybe we can fake it.
I'm working on it. Hang on, sorry.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. Here it is. There we go.
There we are. And it says, everything flows from the nature of God's good. We receive from this flow. We give from this flow. We give in gratitude and in love. We have faith in the infinite giving nature of spirit, and so it is.
And so it is. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Rob. Thank you. That was beautiful. I loved what you had to say. And Yvonne had some announcements for us.
Yes, I do. Monday evening prayer group at 6 to 6:20. And we hope that you'll join us on Zoom and pray for one heart, one mind. And the Zoom link is in the newsletter. So Tuesday evening, spiritual learning from 6 to 7 is just the coolest thing ever. We've gotten to be a really close group of people where we share secrets and stuff. And so I encourage you to think about joining us. On Tuesday, the Learning Circle will be discussing chapter 6 of Life Loves You, written by Louise Hay and Robert Holden. We've all become real fans of both of them because the writing is fabulous. The chapter is learning to receive. And And I love this little quote that is at the beginning of this chapter that Robert Holden put in there. It says, there are so many gifts still unopened from your birthday. And that was written by Hafiz. So that's what we're talking about, birthday presents. Anyway, Michelle has made the reading available online if you want to read it before Tuesday. But if you haven't read it and you think it sounds interesting, then just join us. You won't feel out of place at all. And then I do think about that stuff that Rob was talking about. And so I have down here, don't forget about unexpected income. You won't have any if you don't expect it and look for it. And then my last thing is for you to look for people who would be interested in visiting Reverend Michelle's Facebook page, which is Spiritual Recovery, the Journey of Positive Change. And it has videos and posts for those that are on a journey of recovery. And that's all I have.
So I wanted to just mention, in case you wanted to get a jump on this, that we have this Tuesday and then the following Tuesday to finish up the book of Life Loves You, which is fabulous. I've been sitting on my shelf for years and I never dove into it. And it is wonderful. Yeah. It's so great. But after that, then we have decided to dive into this book. It's called Living Untethered. It's Michael Singer's new book, that it's a kind of a follow-up to The Untethered Soul and the Surrender Experiment, which were his last two books. It's an easy read. It's not a difficult fat book, and it's got kind of all of the principles that we teach in Science of Mind, and he presents them in a unique way, and I really like it. So if you wanna join us with that, we're gonna jump into that next. Thanks. Let's see then. Oh my God. Now, Rob, it is time to invite you to do the benediction, and then we'll have Toni take us out with a final song. Thanks, Rob.
That's a deal. All right. So, and so we take this opportunity just to settle back and sink into whatever chair or stool or pillow or whatever we're leaning against, and just feel the goodness and the God, and take this opportunity to say thank you. Thank you for this wonderful experience here. Thank you for the clear consciousness of Jean Pirkl and her ability to channel that into prayer, and to share with us just anecdotes that just are impossible and couldn't possibly happen without the existence of all perfection and all perfect God. I am so grateful for Toni Hamilton and her amazing ability and her willingness to share her talents with us. And I am so grateful for Michelle's ability to look at a subject matter and turn it into a wonderful talk that is so meaningful. I'm so grateful that all of this is true. I'm grateful for the nature of God that abhors a vacuum, and when the blessings in our life seem to be in absentia, seem to be AWOL, that there's a low pressure zone that is just building up just on the perimeters of our existence. We can feel the goodness flowing in, the blessings flowing in, such that when God closes a door, God always opens the garage, and we can feel that, count on it, know that it is happening. And this is just such a wonderful universe to live in. It is a wonderful God in which we live. And I say, thank you for this. Thank you for the goodness that just never ends. I am so grateful. I release this, I let it be, I let it go, and together we say, and so it is.
And so it is. I love that God didn't just open a window, he opened the garage door. All right, Toni. Thanks, honey.
So to support your flashlight analogy, I'm changing the last song. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light. I am the light that shines in the world. You are the light that shines in the world. You are the light that shines in the world. You are the light that shines in the world. You are the light. You are the light that shines in the world. We are the light that shines in the world. We are the light that shines in the world. We are the light that shines in the world. We are the light. We are the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light. I am the light that shines in the world. I am the light. I am the light that shines in the world.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm gonna be singing that all day. And thank you for being here with us today, Toni. You did a fabulous job. And thank you, Rob. And thank you, Yvonne. And thank you, Jean. And thank you, everybody else, for being here. I see Kelly popped on. I see Gisela and Renetta. I didn't say hello to you. Hello, hello. I know Betty's there in the background somewhere. There she is.